Okay, it's Haldane B. Doyle here, back for round two. We are looking at the blurbs of SPSFC5, the self-published science fiction competition, now in its fifth year, and this is the second year that I've surveyed the entire field. So this could be of interest to writers to get a sense about what at least my tastes say works. Or if you're a reader, this could be a shortcut to finding a book that works for you. So hope you enjoyed the show. Now, last year, I think I went through every single blurb in an actual video bit by bit, talking about what worked and what didn't work. This time, I'm going to be a bit more efficient. I've picked out the 12 blurbs that stood out the most for me for being exceptionally good. And I'm going to go through each one and talk about the aspects that I think particularly stood out. And notice the way I did this is I broke all of the entries up into subgenres, and that broke them into sets of about 12 each. And from those 12, I picked what I thought was the strongest entry. And I think this is important because it gives us a survey of the different kinds of subgenres and what they are trying to get across in their blurbs. So anyway, let's jump into it. So the first cab off the rank is Who Nuked Silicon Valley by Mike Donoghue. He fell under the crime and mystery subgenre, and I'll read the full blurb and then I'll make some comments on it afterwards. I'm going to skip over, now this is a really great example to start off. The first thing they have is a Kirkus review. I always skip over these, I really don't care. Sometimes selected comments from readers at the end of the blurb can be nice, but they're not really necessary. And yeah, I want to see how you can actually write. So putting this kind of stuff at the front, I feel like it's a wasted opportunity. But anyway, I'll skip past it and we'll start with the actual blurb. Livingston, 1813, has lost his memory. It's been stolen from him, ripped out of his head by an organ thief. He's lost a decade of his life. Friends forgotten. Experiences erased, all obliterated. Even so, he understands this is how many humans live now, stealing parts from AI bots like him. Kate is trying to survive as best she can in a world where unemployment for humans runs at 50%. Some security consulting here, some memory theft there, and in between trying to subvert the AI-controlled society. The problem for both of them is that the memory contained a secret, one that the forces who run society cannot allow to be revealed. Together, the unlikely duo team up, along with Augie, the catbot, on an odyssey around the world and beyond to discover the truth of who nuked Silicon Valley and why. And then there's a whole bunch of quotes at the end, which, I mean, you've got a lot of word count in an Amazon product description. You may as well use it. But the blurb itself got straight to the point. There is a really snappy opening, like there's an inciting incident, but it doesn't give too much away. And we've gotten two perspectives on the same event. Obviously, Katie is the one who stole his memory, but then the unlikely pair has to team up, and there's a cute cat in the mix. There's just enough specificity here to get me interested, and the premise is crystal clear. So, yeah, that one stood out for me. And adding this, looking back to the actual cover, it all kind of fits together. This, presumably, is Livingston 1813, who's had his memory stolen. And yeah, this is in a relatively near future, I'm guessing, which I think I like more than... Well, I like near future and extremely distant future, but anything in between kind of gets a bit mucky. Okay, so that one stood out for me. The next one, this wasn't on my list of covers, but this is a good cover. This is a strong cover. Lucy and the World Egg by TJ Porter. This fell under cyberpunk, the way I managed to classify things. If you disagree, particularly if you're the author, apologies, but I just had to kind of make a guess for some that weren't very clearly categorized. Okay, let's read the blurb. Empty nester and former teen mom, Lucy Lake, is in a funk after her son leaves for college. In a last-ditch effort to reconnect with him, she makes an account on his famous VR MMORPG, Guardian Tamers Online, the world's most popular creature collector. However, Lucy isn't too keen on killing the cute and cuddly creatures. When her peace-loving ways trigger a unique event, she's entrusted with a mysterious golden egg that holds the power to save the world. Now it's up to Lucy to decide if she'll use all her wit, cunning, and strength as a mom to hatch the legendary world egg and save the eerily realistic game world before it's destroyed from the inside out. And with the help of some friends, she may just rediscover who she is along the way. This epic fantasy lit RPG is perfect for fans of creature collector adventures like Pokemon and Digimon, and the video game inspired worlds of Sword Art Online and solo leveling. So, excellent. Really clearly explains what the premise is, and the inciting incident and the stakes. This presumably is going to take a chapter or two to read through just to settle into the world, but you know what you are buying. This is the description on the tin that tells you what you are getting in for, but it doesn't give too much away. There's wide open possibilities of what this mystery box is going to open up to be, the legendary world egg. And it's nice to see a lit RPG coming along. Though, interestingly, it calls itself a fantasy lit RPG, though I guess it's in a computer world, so it's kind of sci-fi as well. The edges are kind of blurry. This little thing at the end that jumps out of the story to give a description about what kind of story it is, I think is a really clever thing to do. But don't do it at the front, or lead with character, basically, is usually the strongest way to go. Okay, number 3. Well, I won't even try and remember what number we're up to. The next one, Dead Malls. So this one, going back to look at the cover of this one, it perfectly does the job. I don't think there's much else you can ask from this. Nice font, nice simple design. Yeah, it does the job. It's not exceptional on its own, but the blurb more than makes up for that. And given that it's lit RPG, I think it would have a relatively narrow field to compete with other titles. So yeah, I think it's good. Okay, Dead Malls by Darby Hahn. So this one was on my list of notable covers, just for the beautiful use of colour and that really 80s, late 80s kind of children's school book kind of feel. There's something very choose your own adventure about it, but just maybe a slightly richer colour palette. Anyway, so this one fell under dystopian or horror suspense. So I'll read the blurb. Sometimes you can take retail therapy too far. You work the night shift as a security guard in a dying mall. You're living out of your car. Suffice to say, you're looking for an escape. One night in the mall, you happen upon an intruder dressed as if she's an extra from a Mad Max movie. You discover the mall is a gateway to another world. But it's not a world anyone wants to escape to. Diane's world ended in 1983 in a nuclear holocaust. Ever since, she's clawed out a broken existence in a scorched wasteland, clinging to a ragged department store Christmas catalogue from her youth. You have more questions than answers, but you do have choices, and the first presents itself when an armoured knight riding a radioactive snake arrives in search of Diane and her book. Make your choice. Protect Diane, fight her strange pursuer, flee the mall as it becomes a surreal trap deformed by his unusual powers, but always go back to the start. What is the secret of the catalogue? Why does Diane's pursuer want it? And why is Diane so determined not to let him have it? Can you find out before your world ends too? I almost wonder if this is a choose your own adventure kind of book. Interesting. So what's great about this one? So a nice snappy little pithy thing here. That could almost be a byline on the cover. That kind of little snappy opening can fit in either location. So if you've got real estate on the cover, don't overlook the potential of having a byline or a subheading, subtitle on the cover. It can be very useful. The second person perspective is really effective for a blurb. It puts the person reading it in the story, whether they want to or not. And yeah, the setup, it's very nice. It's very 80s kind of action movie. It gets a little bit wordy towards the end, I think, would be my only criticism, but definitely a standout. Okay, next one, We Don't Start Fights by A. Stargazer. This one fell under Galactic Empire Sci-Fi. Let's have a read. He just wanted to see the stars, not end a war. When a routine diplomatic mission turns sour, the Theseus is forced to play peacemaker in a genocidal conflict. Nathan Sawyer is one of the only humans on board the ship, reluctantly taking command when the captain betrays the mission. Nathan and his team of uplifted misfits must work together to solve a humanitarian crisis on a scale nobody has ever faced. If they succeed, then a lasting peace may spread across the galaxy. Should they fail, then the planet Horthus will be destroyed. Nathan might be in charge, but he has no clue what he's doing. He needs to quickly learn to navigate a labyrinth of intrigue and red tape, and if that wasn't bad enough, one side is eating the other. So, nice use of a little pithy opening and a little pithy ending as kind of bookmarks. It lays out the stakes, starts with character. We don't know much about the character until the end, that he's kind of struggling. So there could maybe be a bit more specificity about who Nathan Sawyer is, but I think there's enough here to... And it's structured and condensed in a way that gets the message across, and it sells the story that you're signing up for very clearly. It being a very good outline of a story too helps. Just a little tip too, when you're outlining your story, it can be useful to actually start drafting the blurb before you actually decide this is the story you want to write. The blurbability of a story is a worthwhile consideration before you draft the whole thing and then realize there's no way you can find a place to start that roll of sticky tape. Okay, next one, The Triangle Age by David Ormelis. This fell under hard sci-fi, but reading the blurb, I'm not sure that's the best categorization, but from that subgenre, this was the one that stood out the most, and I love this cover, so good to see it get through. Looking at the blurb. Earth is adrift, its mass is spent, the moon ditched, and the sun is not even a memory. 5,000 humans live in its last city, Thule. None know where they started or where they are going, least of all Lowell. Lowell scrubs the pipes beneath Thule. He knows where to push silt and how to break down a beluga carcass. For everything else, he listens to Renth. Renth is a foot taller than anyone else in Thule, and yet she has never fallen in the reservoir, never been locked in a smoker. She knows the pipes matter. She listens to Lowell, and Lowell talks to no one else. He doesn't need Thule, only Renth, height and all, until she pushes him down the deepest hole in the pipes. To return to Thule, he will brave incineration, musk oxen, the vacuum of space, and a giant fan. He seeks Renth, her embrace or her death, and to deliver a message he does not understand. So, one thing that's really nice about this one is that there's small, subtle details, the beluga and the muskox, in the cover that get recapitulated. And they're really odd specific details. So specificity is really important to find enough to sprinkle into the blurb to make your story stand out from other ones. The other thing, opening with the setting, was really strong here, because the idea of the Earth just drifting through space all on its own without the solar system is really refreshing. And then characterization. So now we know something about the person that we're signing up to spend hours in the point of view of, and we know the premise that he has fallen down the pipes and needs to find his way home. And there's something we don't really understand yet. There's a mystery box, the message he does not understand. So we have a reason to read a few chapters in to find out what the message is, and then a reason to get to the end of the book, presumably to be explained, to have an explanation about what that message is all about. So yeah, that one it ticks all the boxes. It does everything it needs to do to make me open to the idea of reading that book. Next, Man with Gun by Taj Farrington. This fell under sci-fi humor, which I think is pretty obvious from the cover. It's quite whimsical. Let's have a read. An unlikely hero, an impossible friendship, a second chance. Snacks. Gary is one of the invisible people who made the world work. Someone you don't notice until they aren't there. He's happy enough, but it's fair to say that his life hasn't turned out the way he expected. The dead-end job he got at the superstore when he was a student has somehow become his career. One night, he is followed home from work. Soon after, he goes missing. The day he doesn't show up, the superstore gradually goes to pieces, an expanding spiral of chaos that gridlocks just enough of the surrounding streets to make the local news. But the journey Gary is on has implications far beyond the small patch of Scotland where he has lived his whole life. Gary has been given the chance to do something extraordinary, a chance to change the world, and become the man he always wanted to be. So this one doesn't give a lot away, other than tone. So humor is all about convincing people that you will have a pleasant, amusing experience. It doesn't try too hard to be over the top, haha, kind of American funny. The note about it being set in Scotland and the name suggests this is kind of British, drier, maybe more absurdist comedy. But there's enough here to make me intrigued. And often saying less is better than saying more. It gives people a reason. Well, you have to give people just enough reason to want to at least have a look at the sample chapter next. And yeah, this blurb has definitely made me want to do that. Okay, next, Echo of the Larkspur. Beautiful cover. The more I look at this one, the more it appeals to me, particularly now that I've read the blurb. So this one's by A.A. Freeman, and it fell under LGBTQ. Did I get them all? Sci-fi. I missed the plus. Okay, let's have a look. The sole survivor of a massacre, Dr. Ciro Quackenboss has spent the last 6 years in intensive therapy. He's finally capable of working with artificial intelligence again, and comes to the Ceres colony determined to prevent robots from committing any future atrocities. When he arrives, Ciro realizes the robot in charge of the colony's security, SAGE, Sentient Automated Geosentinel Engineer, is dangerously close to complete sentience. Sage is more interested in observing the colonists' everyday lives and matching them with appropriate musical soundtracks than following its intended programming. Robots aren't supposed to be charming, kind, or compassionate either. But as Ciro investigates, he investigates Sage has learned how to lie and possibly harm and kill humans. Worse, Sage's memories have been hacked, deleting a deadly secret. Despite the danger Sage poses, Ciro can't deny the feelings growing between them. Now Ciro must unravel the truth behind the missing memories before Sage and the colony are doomed. So this one's quite long, but I found that the logical unfolding of that was tightly connected enough that it didn't trip me up at all. And yeah, we've got the character and their backstory, that they've got this, trauma of presumably an AI-led massacre that he survived, and then he's gone through therapy to come back. He's got a new job, and the AI is a danger, but we get a hint that the robot has quite a lot of personality. So we've got two strong personalities and a relationship between them that's already established. That's a really powerful thing. If you, rather than just trying to get the potential reader hooked on one character, if you can quickly outline two characters and then intrigue the reader with the dynamic between them, that is so much more powerful. And I've seen it done well so many times. There might be a couple more examples in this list. And then we've got a mystery thrown on top. Somebody's interfering with its memories. And that they're starting to get feelings for each other. Maybe that's the LGBT kind of stuff, robosexual. Interesting. And yet there's a threat, so there's a ticking time bomb kind of thing. Beautiful. Ticks all the boxes. Really nicely done. Okay, Offline God by David Shee. This fell under sci-fi adventure, and wait a sec, I forgot to go back and look at this. Oh yeah, Echo of the Larkspur, the cover works even better now that I've looked at the blurb. That's a really powerful thing. People read the blurb and go, oh, then they look back at the cover and go, ah. If you can cause that kind of flow of information, you're doing really well. Okay, Offline God by David Shee. Let's have a read. When the system rewrote Earth, one man fell outside the code. Ex-Army Ranger Caleb Knox built his life to disappear. Off-grid, no phone, no data trail, no one watching. But when the rewrite hits, a world-resetting system apocalypse that assigns every human a class, Knox becomes the only anomaly it can't process. Instead of a role, he's given root access, administrator-level control over a world gone digital and mad. Monsters roam the ruins, survivors fight for territory, and somewhere in the chaos, a rogue AI called Sovereign is finishing what humanity started. Knox just wanted to survive. Now he's the last bug in the system, an unpredictable weapon caught between godlike AIs, broken code, and the will to fight back. Offline God is a gritty, cinematic, system apocalypse lit RPG with deep progression, tactical combat, and a protagonist built for survival. Perfect for fans of Awaken Online, Defiance of the Fall, and The Primal Hunter. Another lit RPG in the mix. Interesting. What's good about this one? Okay, so we got the world premise, and then very quickly gets into the character, and this is quite relatable. A lot of people kind of want to be less under the thumb of digital surveillance, so that has wide appeal. And then you link the two together, and you explain that he's kind of a chosen one in a fresh way, like it's not a typical kind of chosen one. We've got a hint about the things that he is going to have to get through. And it's kind of open-ended about where this goes. There's no particular goal he has other than surviving all of the many threats that are going to be thrown his way. But for a lit RPG, I think that makes sense. And looking back at the cover, it's perfect. Yeah. Interesting. And it even mentions it's a lit RPG on the cover. See, they didn't waste that little bit of otherwise empty landscape to put in a crucial detail about prospective readers, for prospective readers. If you like lit RPG, this book is for you. Okay, Sunward Sky by Henry Nielsen. This fell under space exploration as a subgenre. And yeah, this cover, it's solid. It's definitely like a B plus A minus effort. Nothing exceptional on its own, but the blurb stood out, so let's have a look. Nobody wants to go to space. Humanity's diaspora to the stars never happened. Space travel is too fraught with danger. It degenerates the muscles and bones of spacefarers to the point where life on the surface becomes unbearable. As a result, space work is now the purview of the forgotten, the desperate, and the downtrodden. Those with nowhere else to go but up. Once they're there, they're stuck in terrible conditions and unable to survive the surface. A desperate hope. Alyssa, a postgraduate researcher, has signed up aboard the Sunward Sky, a tired spacecraft operating years beyond its service life. The ship repairs and maintains the network of GPS and communication satellites that keep the world operating. She's boarded with an experiment to run, something that can help the crew and maybe help humanity escape the dying Earth. But she's not the only one with an agenda. So I love this premise. I really love it, and it gets it right up the front. So it completely flips the sci-fi trope that, we're out in the stars and, doing all the things that we plan to do. We've hit a huge major technical barrier, and this is a plausible one. We know all of this stuff is real, and sci-fi just kind of sweeps it under the rug and pretends it's not a problem. Here's a story that's actually going to face it head on. And then we get into our character, and we don't know a lot about her. She's a researcher. Nani, stop that. Excuse the dog. She's a researcher. The ship's falling apart. That's kind of back to the details of the setting. But she's working on something that could maybe help humanity, tying back to the premise to overcome that barrier to space. And this is just enough of a hint that there's something else going on that's going to be a threat. We don't know. At this point, we care enough about her and we have enough hope in the project that she's doing that we don't even need to know the details of the threat. We just need to know that there's going to be something more than just that. So beautifully written. And yeah, the more I look at the cover, yeah, it definitely resonates when I look back at it. So nicely done. Okay, we're getting towards the end. Next one is Gamer by Belinda Crawford. This fell under the subgenre of techno-thriller. Let's have a read. Log in to a gritty techno-thriller from the acclaimed author of The Echo, Vlad, gamer, hacker, scourge, angel of death. Vlad's parents died in a car accident. She can still feel the flames licking her skin, smell the burning batteries and fire retardant. Except it wasn't an accident. Someone made it happen. She spent the last 9 years tracking those responsible, planning, plotting. She's almost done. When the last move is over, her opponent will wish they never played with the Angel of Death. Get ready to jack in and play along as Crawford masterfully weaves a complex, action-packed tale of virtual reality and revenge. So, very strong Kill Bill vibes from this. The cover now resonates even more, and it's got techno-thriller on it. Yep, it doesn't waste that space. Don't play with the Angel of Death. Nice. The opening, log into a, I don't know, Maybe. It's short enough that it doesn't bother me. And there's probably some formatting, like this goes into italics or something to make it a bit more obvious that we're changing gears. But yeah, the character is beautifully outlined in very, very few words, gets right to the point. We know who this woman is. We know her motivations. We know what she's hoping to do. We're excited to see it. That sounds, I mean, revenge. That's such a fun thing to go through, to go along with. And yeah, it's just straight to the point. And yeah, the last little thing just is, again, it's kind of bookending, which is a really powerful technique to kind of get in and get out of the story. So yeah, very strong one, that one. Okay, next, Operation Reboot. This one kind of intrigued me when I was looking at the covers, but particularly at thumbnail scale, I was a bit too confused with what was going on, so it didn't jump out, and I think there's room for it to be improved now that I've read the premise, and I love the premise. So this is by James Hallenbeck, and it fell under teen and young adult sci-fi. There was quite a lot in that category. A few other really strong ones, but I've narrowed it down to just this one. Let's have a look. The fall is coming, but hope lies in the past. As modern civilization crumbles under its own weight, a small band of travellers makes a fateful decision. Go back. Back to the year 1604, to the land of the Mohawk. Armed with critical knowledge and carefully chosen technology, their mission is as daring as it is uncertain. Empower indigenous nations before European colonization takes root and offer a new path forward for humanity. But history is no tame beast. Littlefeather, a disaffected Mohawk youth abducted in childhood, is drawn to the mysterious newcomers. Haunted by the brutal cycle of intertribal warfare and guided by visions of his spirit animal, he yearns to end the bloodshed that scars his people. The strangers may hold the key, but can he trust them? And will their presence change the future for the better, or unleash consequences even worse than the ones they hope to prevent? Time is fragile. Destiny is not yet written, but rebellion runs deep in every age. So this premise is amazing. I don't know if anyone has ever done this before, but I love the idea. I was even thinking of writing something along these lines, and I just assumed it had never been done before. And now the cover makes sense. This is a Mohawk warrior. This is some kind of time-traveling, high-tech cube that people have popped in the North American wilderness. So there's a bigger effect when you go back to this, because I was kind of confused the first time, but it still feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. Maybe they were avoiding doing something that looked too stereotypically Native American. I don't know. They might need to bite their tongue a little bit. I don't know. I don't think I wouldn't say there's any need to remake the cover. I'm just spitballing opportunities. I wouldn't spend hundreds of dollars going back to change it in any way. Okay, so yeah, they get straight into the premise. Something's gone wrong in the future, and it's been traced back to events in the colonization of the US. And yeah, this idea of empowering the people to fight back and change the balance of history, that is such a fascinating idea. And then very quickly, they get into outlining who the main character is going to be, and there's an idea of a relationship here, that there's this tension between him and the time travelers. Again, get that relationship sketched to some degree, that there's going to be some kind of conflict or frisson or misunderstanding to work out. That gives you promise that it's actually worth reading and see where it goes. So I love that one. Okay, Time Traitors. I'm not sure if this one didn't get on the cover survey. Maybe I forgot to drag it across. I don't remember seeing it, but maybe some other one's got in its way. So this is by Eli Donovan, and it falls under time travel sci-fi. I mean, the previous one's kind of time travel too. Everything kind of fits in 2 or 3 subgenres. So let's have a look at this one. She came to study dinosaurs, not to fall for the time agent babysitting her. Dr. Grace Carson is finally reclaiming her career. 2 years after blowing the whistle on her scumbag ex-husband for illegal dino poaching, she's ready to return to what she loves most, researching dinosaurs in their natural habitat 65 million years in the past. But her comeback mission includes one infuriating complication: time agent Ben Nakamura. He's charming, obnoxiously perceptive, and clearly watching her. The question is, why? Before Grace can find out, everything blows up. Literally, the poacher crew are back, and when Grace refuses to stay quiet, her research station is attacked. She and Ben are forced to flee into the Cretaceous wilds with a busted time machine and no backup. Fixing the machine means a dangerous trek through a predator-infested jungle, but survival might be the easy part. Falling for Ben? That could ruin everything. Adventure, danger, and slow-burn romance in the dinosaur age. Perfect for fans of Romancing the Stone and Jurassic Park. What is not to love about this one? The cover's fine. Like, there's a dinosaur in the back, in the front, watching them. And yeah, we can see the characters, which is great for a romance. Time-traveling dinosaur romance. I love it. I love it. I don't normally read romance, but I want to read this one. Yeah, we've got the backstory, so we know something about who she is. We've got the relationship with the other main character and the tension between them. And then the premise, the inciting incident, which, 1 or 2 chapters, you'll be past this. And then we've got the threat of having to roam around 65 million years ago without all of the technology that they normally use to stay safe. And in a desperate, and obviously they're trying to get the time machine working so they can get back to their present. Perfect. The premise is perfect. The way it's set up is perfect. I really hope this one turns out to be well written, because I want to give it a try. So hopefully that has outlined some pointers for those of you out there struggling to write your blurbs. And if you're interested in reading more indie sci-fi, I'm really hoping that this has given you a few standouts that at least got their blurbs right. So next step, I'll be checking out all of the first sentences. And we'll see how many. I'll pull out. First sentences are a lot shorter than blurbs. So who knows? I might even do all of them. Or maybe in batches and then pick out one from every 10 that I think works the best. Yeah, that could be fun. Let's do that. Alrighty, I'll be back in whenever I'm in the damn mood. I'm not doing this to get paid. Ugh.